we've got a serious problem to solve within a generation of people. In fact, if you look at these kids, these toddlers, half of them will have sperm counts of 0.
This was a study that looked at the question of declining sperm count worldwide for about 40 years. What we showed in this paper, which is, by the way, the largest and most rigorous paper of its kind ever written, we showed that between 73 and 2011, which were the years that the sperm were collected in this study, sperm count had dropped 40%. This was very significant statistically, and it was not slowing down. And when I say not slowing down, I mean, if we looked at 20 years instead of 40, or 10 years instead of 40, you might think, well, the slope is leveling off. But we didn't see that. What we saw was that if things went ahead as the data suggested, that by 2045, this curve would hit 0. And what that means is that the median sperm count is 0, okay? So half the men would have 0, and then the other half would be, a lot of them, very close to 0. That means that the majority of men in Western countries would not have enough sperm or have difficulty conceiving a pregnancy. This is very serious, and there are some other lines here. There's a blue line and an orange line, which do not hit 0 anytime soon. And those are the curves that we want to shoot for. We want to push this curve in a direction that keeps it away from hitting 0. And we'll talk about some ways to do that. So what could be causing this? So I've separated possible causes into genetic. While genetics undoubtedly plays a role in all this, it's not going to be causing a decline at this rate. This is too fast for a genetic change. So that means that it's an environmental cause, and that can be lifestyle or chemical. And I've worked on both of these. I'm going to talk today about chemical exposures because plastics fall in that category. And those can be endocrine disrupting chemicals, chemicals that have the ability to alter the reproductive system and alter the hormones and alter the endocrine system. That's why they're called endocrine disrupting chemicals. And then there are other chemicals, and they also play a role. And under the EDCs, or the endocrine disrupting chemicals, we have phthalates and bisphenols, which are particularly in plastics. We also have PFAS, which is also has plastic in there. Pesticides, by the way, phthalates are in pesticides. Flame retardants, they're all relevant to this discussion. Phthalates comprise a large class of chemicals. They're best thought about by their uses. So they make plastic soft and flexible. And in that function, we see them in things like rubber duckies and shower curtains and pacifiers and rubber tubing. What happens is that these phthalates leave the plastic, they're not chemically bound, and they go into the food, and then they go into us, and they also go into our unborn children. Another important source of phthalates is in cosmetics. So phthalates also make increase absorption. They increase retention of fragrance. They add color. So they're added to lipsticks. They're added to nail polish. They're also added to pesticides because they help retention of the pesticide into the plant. So those are just some uses of our very all-pervasive class of chemicals called phthalates. One of the key players in this story is testosterone. Endocrine disrupting chemicals alter our hormones, in particular our steroid hormones, and in particular our testosterone. And this is very clear and important for the declining reproductive health of humans and other species. So for example, phthalates shown here in nail polish, in a shower curtain, in tubes collecting milk from a cow, are all very significant sources of the kinds of phthalates that can interfere with testosterone. And what does that mean? Well, specifically, let me show you one set of graphs. On the left, we have The surge in testosterone that occurs in early pregnancy in a rat who is not exposed to phthalates. There's a very clear peak in the testosterone, but if we go to the right-hand curve, when the mom is exposed to phthalates, in this case diethyl hexylphthalate, one of the most anti-androgenic phthalates, you see that that curve is completely wiped out. That means that that mother is not seeing the testosterone surge when she needs it and when the fetus needs it to masculinize. So we clearly have a problem. And that's why you're on this call, and that's why this organization exists. We all recognize this problem, but I just want to point out that only perhaps 250 of 60,000 chemicals have been directly tested for endocrine disruption and for toxicity by the EPA. So that's not going to get us to our goal of turning that curve away from zero, which we must do quickly if we are going to avoid catastrophe by 2045.